It's always fun, like when I'm feeling down, I just go here and sing.
In Nunavut, Inuit work to keep their culture intact and their families close.
Stick your nose in our business, we're gonna have to flatten it.
And cheers for lessons from the Dad Bod Squad. Good evening, I'm Melissa Ridgen with your APTN National News. The Prime Minister says it's up to the courts to decide as SNC-Lavalin makes a new court bid to get a deferred prosecution agreement on corruption charges. The issue is at the center of the political firestorm that eventually saw former Attorney General Jody Wilson-Raybould get booted from caucus along with Jane Philpott. The Quebec company is fighting the Director of Public Prosecution's decision to not give them a deal to avoid prosecution on bribery charges. The federal court threw out the company's request for a judicial review in March. Now, SNC-Lavalin is asking the Federal Court of Appeal to let it challenge the decision. The company cites that what it calls, quote, new and troubling facts from Justice Committee testimony. The Prime Minister was asked about SNC-Lavalin's bid this afternoon in Toronto.
We have an independent judiciary with strong institutions, and we're a country that follows the rule of law. The courts will follow their appropriate process. The Attorney General, as we've heard many times over the past weeks, has the responsibility to make a determination on whether and how to intervene in matters before the courts, and will exercise that in a way that is rigorous and in keeping with the rule of law.
We want to hear what you think. Here's how you can continue the conversation. You can send your emails to news@aptn.ca. You can find us online at aptnnews.ca and on youtube.com/aptn news. You can also follow APTN News on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for more Indigenous news. It's a big place with a small population, and when times get tough, those who inhabit Canada's youngest territory stick together. In our final Nunavut Perspectives piece, our reporter Charlotte Mork-Jacobs looks at who is helping youth not only survive, but thrive. Here's that story.
Pangertung Pentecostal welcomes worshippers most nights of the week.
And other people we have prayed for.
But on this Sunday service, they're praying a little harder. That's because their friend, 11-year-old Abigail, was hit by a drunk driver on a snowmobile and is in an Ottawa hospital with serious injuries.
She comes here to the church too, so it's right for us to pray for her because she's part of us. She's part of the community.
Safe spaces are not always easy to find for youth across Nunavut. Since the Pang Youth Centre closed down in 2015, the church has become a haven for kids who would otherwise wander around with nothing to do. In the dark months of winter, Solomon Kunaluski comes here for community. He's been playing music with his friends here for 2 years.
I go to church anytime I want to. Like, we go here on Wednesdays, Fridays, and Sundays. It's always fun. Like, when I'm feeling down, I just go here and sing. That's when I feel better.
Church leader Mary Italak has been helping youth for over a decade.
They express themselves, they want prayer, and they speak to us, even if it's not here at the church, but outside too. Or we've lost family members, we've lost friends to suicide, and we want that load lifted off of them.
So how can the next generation support youth? Hold service providers accountable who are not serving youth as best as they can. It's a daunting task, but an important one, and fulfilled by David Korgak. He is a child and youth advocate working in Iqaluit.
Let's say a young person in care wants more family visits with their parents, and the social worker never took the time to listen to this young people, so we hold them accountable by ensuring that you know, this young person has the opportunity to have their voice heard, and ensuring that they are being listened to.
Like Italek, he believes youth have the right to be safe, amongst other things.
You know, young people feel very often that they're not being heard. So that's one big thing that does come to me a lot when I'm in the communities.
Korgak is realistic in the challenges youth face in Nunavut and works in a lot of small towns across the territory. But he doesn't rest any blame on the people providing care in communities on a shoestring budget with a lack of resources.
One innate societal value is being resourceful and another is being innovative. And communities do have some resources available to them, so we encourage young people and service providers to seek those resources, and if they don't have them, be innovative.
Another tip from Korgak: require youth training for all government workers to understand their biggest client by population in the territory, youth.
An example I can think of is mental health workers. When they come into the territory, very often they are generalists. They work mainly with adults, and nobody really has any specialty in dealing with young children and youth, and they very often are not comfortable working with young people. So,
as Nunavut celebrates its 20th anniversary, there is pain, but there is also healing. And it's from those who are helping to mold the next generation. And they believe that it's Inuit youth who are stronger than ever.
It's awesome to have the kids come in every single service, every Sunday, and we have other services during the week, and they just keep showing up.
The territory is still promising to make good on its 1999 vision. But it will be by Inuit for Inuit, and youth helping other youth will be making those changes for the next 20. Charlotte Mort-Jacobs, APTN National News, reporting from Pukalawit and Pangertown.
That was a great series. You can watch it on our website if you missed any of them this week. It's time for a quick break, but we've got a couple of Mohawk wrestlers coming up after the break who you will not want to miss. And here's tomorrow's weather forecast. To the east coast, we've got 9 in rain in Fredericton, 7 in rain in Halifax, minus 16 in snow in Inukjuak, minus 11 in clear skies in the Grand River, 7s for Quebec City and Saint-Jovite, 10 in rain in Montreal, 14 mix of sun and cloud in Peterborough, and 13 mix of sun and cloud in Ottawa, minus 1 in sunshine for Big Trout Lake, 6s for Wawa and Thunder Bay, minus 3 in Puckatawagan and clear skies, 1 in God's Lake, 2 in Norway House, 8s for Gimli and Winnipeg with the mix of sun and cloud in Barons River and Princess Harbour, 9 in rain in Regina, 8 in rain in Saskatoon, 14 and rain in Swift Current. Minus 1s for Stony Rapids and Uranium City, sunshine there, and 3 and rainy in Buffalo Narrows and La Ronge. Welcome back. 4 Indigenous women are standing out as pillars of a hockey team from Brandon, Manitoba. They've helped their team bring home the top prize from the highest level of collegiate sports in North America. APTN's Ashley Branson brings us this.
It's been a whirlwind week for the Assiniboine Community College women's hockey team. The women went undefeated in the 2019 American Collegiate Hockey Association Division II Women's Championship in Frisco, Texas, beating out 4 teams. Head coach Tony Bertone says around a quarter of his team is Indigenous.
We're one big family, you know, and that's what I brought right from day one, you know, is team respect and hard work.
Alex Tosh played center forward. She describes how it felt after each win throughout the competition.
It was pretty exciting. I think it made us all want to keep going.
With all the excitement, some of the women had to keep up with their full-time school workload, like defense player Simone Turner-Cummer.
I had to write 2 exams while I was down there, so I had that on top of everything.
The 4 girls say time management and support are key to keeping up with their busy schedules.
We're student athletes. We're students first and the sport is second, and just having coaches that support that and were on top of us for studies was very helpful, and having each other just to make sure we got our homework done.
Defense player Haley Anderson remembers how she felt going into the finals.
I think deep down all of us knew that we could do it, so we all just believed in each other, and it was an amazing feeling.
This is Bertone's first year being head coach for the ACC women's hockey team. He believes it's important for the girls to be in the right frame of mind before games.
You deserve to be here. You worked hard to get here. You're here. All right? So believe in yourselves.
He remembers when that final buzzer went off and they knew they won, gloves and helmets covered the ice.
It brought tears to my eyes. It really did. Because of all the hard work they put in and their schooling and the practices, the dry land, and and keeping their grades up, because you got to keep your GPA up to play. I commend them. They did a great job.
Tosh has 3 tips for future students who want to follow in their footsteps.
Focus on time management, and if you keep working hard, you'll get where you want to go and have fun.
Ashley Branson, APTN National News, Brandon, Manitoba.
And here's a peek at something else that we're working on for you.
I'm Kent Driscoll in Iqaluit, and that is traditional Inuit throat singing. Inuit throat singers have boycotted the Indigenous Music Awards for nominating a Cree artist who calls her music Inuit throat singing. We'll introduce you to this young throat singer and find out why she supports the boycott. That's coming soon on APTN National News.
Off to northern Alberta, we've got 3 and snow in Peace River and Fort McMurray, 9 and rain in Edmonton, 10 and sunshine in Red Deer, 11s and rain for Campbell River and Tofino and Quesnel, 5 and rain in Dace Lake, 10 and rain in Smithers, 4 and rain in Beaver Creek, 0 and snow in Watson Lake, 0 and sunshine in Norman Wells, -1 for Fort Simpson, -13 and sunny in Tuktoyaktuk, -9 and clear in Coldville Lake, -25 in Cambridge Bay, clear skies, -19 in Repulse Bay, sunny. Hangerton's in at -5 with a mix of sun and cloud. Clyde River is -15 in snow and -5 in snow in Iqaluit. We have that story now that we were trying to bring you before the break about the Dad Bod Squad, a wrestling duo from Ganawage, Mohawk territory. Here's Tom Fenario with the story.
In the wrestling ring, fortunes can change in a flash. One moment, you're taking a beating, struggling, and failing to tag in your partner. But at any given time, an opportunity can present itself, waiting to be seized.
We're going to come out here, we're going to put on a show for these great fans here at BCW, and we're going to kick some butt at the same time.
Ganawage's Dad Bod Squad were up to the task. Their match against the Mascouche dynasty, obnoxious oil millionaires from the Montreal suburbs, turned quickly on a double DDT delivered by the squad's Kyle Zachary. After getting tagged in, Sean Rice nearly completed the job. But the nefarious interference of another tag team, some sloppy refereeing, and a brutal low blow led to a tough loss, and the Dad Bod Squad vowing revenge.
You stick your nose in our business, we're going to have to flatten it.
This is a regular Saturday night at Beauharnois Championship Wrestling, based 45 minutes southwest of Montreal. It's mostly a labor of love for organizers and performers. That applies to promoter Loïc Lassalle-Paquette, who says wrestling is nothing less than an art form.
C'est une pièce de théâtre. Chacun des matchs de lutte est une pièce de théâtre. Donc, après ça, le metteur en scène décide l'histoire, les lutteurs jouent le jeu. Donc, un match de lutte, c'est sûr qu'à la base, c'est vraiment raconter une histoire.
Another essential element to good wrestling, characters.
Yeah, we're the old dudes. We're out of shape. We're dads. We're like in the twilight of our careers, pretty much.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like Dad Bod. We have the Dad Bods going on. Kind of makes sense.
We're called the Dad Bod Squad because you look at these guys back here, they're young, they're chipper, they're bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and they're ready to take on the world, and we can't keep up with that kind of youthful enthusiasm.
But what the Dad Bod Squad lacks in energy or abdominal muscles, they make up for in craftiness. Their motto,
"We work smarter, not harder,"
speaks to how they've been known to delve into the dark arts of wrestling.
You watch some of these guys, they're doing backflips and somersaults, and they're all over the place. And the way we keep up with them is just give them a quick poke in the eyes.
Kyle and Sean might be playing up the dad angle, but you could also call them comeback kids. They returned to the ring only a few months ago, after over a decade off. This coming weekend, they'll be making their U.S. debut in New Jersey at a week-long independent circuit showcase.
That's every promotion from the world, not just North America, from the world. Like even Japan and Mexico, they're all having shows in the same place. So it's a big thing for everybody in pro wrestling.
Over here, this is one of the outfits that I wore when I was wrestling.
But the Dad Bod Squad aren't the first wrestlers from Kahnawake to make a name for themselves. So you never played a bad guy?
No. I didn't have a choice. They loved me.
Yeah. No. Longtime fans of pro wrestling will know Billy Two Rivers. He wrestled for 24 years all over the world, mainly in the UK, US, and Asia. Ever the showman, the 83-year-old agreed to meet with APTN even though he's in the hospital rehabbing a back injury. Do you remember your first match?
The first one was a laugh on me.
Two Rivers always entered the ring by vaulting over the top ropes. Aside from being flashy, it was a way to avoid getting his headdress stuck between the ropes on entry. But nerves got the best of him during his first ever match in Detroit.
My first time there, my knees were knocking, so I got up on the apron of the ring. I grabbed the two top ropes and I vaulted. I was so nervous, whatnot. As I was clearing it, my toe caught the top rope. And do you ever see a chicken or something falling in the ring? There I was on the mat. Well, I never lived that down for about 10 years.
Having a wrestling legend in the community certainly served as inspiration for Zachary long before he had a dad bod.
Billy, when I first got into the industry, I sat with Billy and we talked, and we developed this bond that you can only grow with other wrestlers.
But that bond between wrestlers only goes so far, especially when the opportunity for revenge appears. The squad waited until Caden and Cable, the team that ruined their match, were near victory, before staging a perfectly timed distraction to steal the match out from under them.
I mean, it's tit for tat, right? Dutch door action. You screw us, we're going to screw you right back. It's simple mathematics.
I'm terrible at math, so whatever.
I'm not that great either.
Mathematics, it ain't. Poetry, that's a stretch. But great theater, definitely in this crowd's eyes. Tom Fenario, APTN National News, for Harnois, Quebec.
Tonight on APTN Investigates is a story called Cardston, Canada. While it's centered in one town, it examines broader racial tensions that can be found between townsfolk and Indigenous people elsewhere in small town Canada. Video journalist Rob Smith brings us this piece, and he joins us now. So, Rob, why did you head to Cardston?
Well, it wasn't our initial intention to feature Cardston in a full documentary. I was working on another story, and while researching that story, a few racially charged incidents made headlines. So we thought that would be a good way into this other story that we were working on. But however, things changed when we hit the ground, and we just heard the sheer volume of stories that the locals had to tell us.
So what are some of the things that you found in Cardston?
Well, it was a whirlwind trip, and the truth be told, it was a bit overwhelming. We allude to that in the piece that we just couldn't get to every single story. What came to the fore was definitely a history of colonization and a complete inability for the locals to understand that painful history. Mm-hmm. But the stories that we got on the ground between the shopkeepers and local Indigenous population really make up the body of it. There just really is a high level of tension in that area.
So a lot of racially charged incidents have taken place in Cardston. As you said, there was lots of headlines to that effect. What did the town of Cardston have to say in response to the questions that you asked for this piece?
Well, we reached out to the mayor, and she was certainly willing to speak to us, wanted to get on camera. The scheduling didn't work out for us. However, I have to admit that she did send a statement, and it was one of the most it was one of the longest and most thoughtful statements I've ever gotten from a elected official. And she admits that there is a problem, that they are working on it. She puts the blame squarely on the history of colonization and the deep-rooted hurts that people have to understand that the Indigenous people in Cardston are dealing with. Mm-hmm. And she says that work is underway, and she says there is, with some of the townsfolk, just a lack of empathy for that history.
Did you get a sense that this is authentic, that the leadership in this community is working with the people, and that there's a willingness among the people who live there to address this?
There is a willingness, at least from what I hear from the mayor, that these things will be getting addressed in the coming time to come.
Awesome. Well, we look forward to your show tonight. Thanks so much for joining us to give us a little sneak peek.
Thanks, Melissa.
Still on the topic of APTN Investigates, our team continues to gather recognition for the work we do. APTN Investigates producer Holly Moore picked up the Amnesty International Canadian Media Video Award last night in Toronto for her story, The Cure Was Worse. Amnesty International honors journalists every year for outstanding efforts in increasing awareness of human rights issues. This investigative piece shows how Canada treated Indigenous tuberculosis patients in Indian hospitals or southern sanatoriums. Holly traveled across Canada to interview survivors and their loved ones and shine a dark light on this dark chapter in Canadian history. Congrats to Holly on a great piece, and to everyone at APTN Investigates for another trophy on their shelf. Stay tuned right now for Rob Smith's Investigates piece right after the news. I'm going to leave you with a touching moment south of the border following the Boston Celtics win over the Miami Heat in South Beach on Wednesday night. Kiri Irving, a member of the Sioux tribe, sought out a young fan named Shiloh Archibald of the Miccosukee tribe and gifted his jersey off his back as well with his game-worn shoes. Got a happy kiddo here. I'm Melissa Ridgen. Have a great night.
Thank you.